Hey guys, welcome back to my channel again. Thank you for joining me tonight. I'm not gonna lie, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning almost, and I was gonna do this video another time, but then I just thought, well, I can't sleep anyway, so I might as well do it. So yeah, we're just gonna do it. I think I'm bringing it back a bit to the UK, where I'm from. It's not really a case-ish. It's a haunting case, I guess you could say. It's basically a very popular, well-known London haunting. I believe it's into the top 10 haunted places in the UK or London. And I know there's been many YouTubers who have gone to investigate this actual house, which I won't be doing anytime soon because of obvious things. I have children and the schedules, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, we are of course talking about the Enfield Poltergeist house, aka 284 Green Street in London. So this haunting case basically inspired the second Conjuring, with the family, not the first one, with the family in the country house kind of thing, but the second one, I believe it was a single mother.
Old hand of nightfall that opens the door to our deepest fears. For most, it is only a creeping dread scratching at the corner of our mind. But for one family in 1977's London, dread was just the beginning.
I'm starting the Enfield Poltergeist case.
What you're seeing is a reimagining of those events. But what you're about to hear is real.
What do you want? Tell us what you want.
I can't comment you.
That's an 11-year-old girl.
Experience the original recordings.
It was like someone's knocking to come in.
In the chilling new docu-series.
People witnessed Janet levitating.
I know what I experienced, and I know that it was real.
The Enfield Poltergeist.
This is my home. Get out now.
No, this is not your house. Now, what's your name?
My name is Bill Wilkins, and I'm 72 years old.
What do you make of that voice?
Sounds confused. Is he senile?
The voice on this tape is coming from an 11-year-old girl. They're calling it England's Amityville. There is a family that desperately needs our help.
After everything we've seen, there isn't much that rattles either of us anymore. But this one still haunts me. Does it feel like the voice is coming from inside you?
Or like it's coming from behind me, like I'm being used.
Janet, are you alright?
Stop calling me Janet.
She's such a good girl. What's wrong with her?
An oppressing spirit will try to force you to commit the ultimate sin.
And what's that?
Murder, suicide, or both?
You believe us, don't you?
Sensing a presence?
I'm not sensing anything.
All I can sense is their own fear.
Honey, you're bleeding. What is happening?
I had a premonition of your death.
Who's that?
The family's just a pawn.
Something inhuman wants to kill you. If we keep doing this, you're going to die.
we're just going to get into it and go on about it. You might know about it, you might not know about it, but basically there's now skeptics more recently coming to light, saying that they've basically now thinking that it's just a hoax basically, and new evidence is suggesting that it's not really haunting, it's tricksters, pranksters, the children being children, and there's explanations and things being debunked. So I'm just going to get into it, briefly show you some recordings along the way, and you can make up your choice on your own. So yeah, let's get into it. So obviously it's said to be a very active haunted house, supernatural paranormal activity going on. The house, again, like I said, is in Green Street in London. Apparently it's a simple council house. If you don't know what a council house is because you're not from the UK, basically it's a house that's owned by the government kind of thing, in a way. I think in America you might call it project housing, or I don't know, government housing, something like that, I'm not sure. But basically it's owned through the government, through your local area council. Not sure how you would do that in a different country, and then they help you if you have any issues or fixtures, stuff like that. And nowadays you can basically buy the house from the council if you want to. So yeah, it's a council house, and it's apparently been invested with a dark entity with bad intentions. According to interviews and reports, this entity or entities that take over this child Janet is more than one entity, but there is one popular one that we'll get into later. So basically it's a mother and her 4 daughters, I believe, but the 2 main characters of this story are called Janet and Margaret, and they are both aged 11 and 13. Mother's called Peggy, if I haven't mentioned already. And basically activity that was occurring in this house started being recorded basically back in between 1977 and 1979, and like I've said, YouTubers have been there up to present day and recorded stuff of their own, so there's not been just that stuff, but present stuff happening and gadgets being used and all sorts. So again, there's the thing of, can it be debunked, or is it really haunted, or what's going on? So yeah. So research groups, for example, the Society for Physical Research, aka SPR, have actually had representatives of their research group named Maurice Gross, which I'll try and picture here if I can find it, and an investigator, Guy Leon Playfair, who's a writer. They are convinced from what they have seen and investigated that the hauntings are legit. They say that there are some things that can be explained and there's some things that definitely can't be. Again, that's their opinion. There are skeptics, like I said, such as people like Anita Gregory and John Beloff, that believe the evidence that has been gathered has been faked. Evidence as in voices that were the entities that have been faked by the girls, pranks being done by the girls, different things. Again, there's a lot going on, so it's not exactly complex. There's people that said their sisters were making things up, which were obviously things that they said they'd seen and experienced when they were alone. And that they would, pretend things were happening just for shits and giggles, basically. There is the story behind it that the girls made this stuff up, got the attention of their mum, who obviously got the attention of the people to help them investigate, and basically fed into the attention. and decided to just keep it going because they found it fun, and obviously there's reporters going on, and they're getting the attention and everything's looking like spotlighty stuff, so they just kept going with it apparently. Again, that's another side. Members of the Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims for the Paranormal, that's right, it's a long name, sorry, which is also CSI COP or CSI COP, which collaborate with the talents of magician Milbourne Christopher, I think I said that right, again I'll try and picture him for you, and Joe Nichol have critically pulled down paranormal investigator findings. They've called everything basically that they've seen to be reported, all these findings and investigations, a full-on hoax, and they were just like, there's a story aside of, again, the girls are just hoaxes, and they've created such evidence that is so believable that these investigators want to believe it because they want to have evidence of paranormal, so they've just been gullible. And at the same time, it's like, was it a situation where they realised that they were being conned, but they just went with it just so they didn't look stupid? So yeah, there's that. However, even though there's all these conspiracy theories, the house itself has sparked a lot of interest in TV, radios and newspapers, obviously. And obviously due to the influence on TV and radio and the story itself, and with it being paranormal, it's the unquestionable and uncertain stuff. Again, it influenced The Conjuring 2. The concerning thing as well is that the sister that is mainly targeted, which is Janet, more mainly targeted, tends to speak in different voices, like I said earlier. Men's voices as well, and at one point she starts assuming the personality of a man called...
Anybody there? No. Who's there? Doctor Who. Doctor Who? Goose chases here.
Which later on in a recording, in an interview with Janet, we find out that Bill apparently used to live in the house and died in a corner of the house where she gets possessed and starts speaking in a man's voice when she's sitting in this corner where he died, and that he's invisible.
I'm 72 years old. I come from Jurong graveyard, and I have right in the church where Rita lives. And all my friends come from there as well. And we all make a cake and go to the pub, and then we leave your house, because I used to live here.
Now, one thing that is something else to try to rely on. So again, you have the stories and the critics of these paranormal investigators, these research people basically, people that come off the street, the TV, the radio, and you get the side of Janet and Margaret and their stories, but we also have a side of Peggy, the mother, who has been reported to hear loud bangs or knocks coming from the inside walls of the house, and also she herself has seen furniture being moved in the house without explanation or any kind of determination that it could have been, the house being on a hill or anything like that, which it isn't. And even more so, to give you a bit of a question in your mind, two police people, I believe it was a man and a woman, or a man, no, it was a man and a woman because I had the interview, reported going to the house and visibly seeing furniture being moved in front of them, which I can show you the interview.
BBC journalists and the police.
I checked for wires under the cushion of the chair and I could find no explanation at all.
And then themselves said they were like using a marble. They said it in the interview, they used a marble to try and see if the house was like underbalanced kind of thing, and it wasn't. So again, skeptics. Other reports come through, again, not from people that I can really find evidence of, but there are reports that say people have heard disembodied voices coming from the house. There's no visible persons that it could come from, basically. Loud noises have been heard even by the neighbours who live next door, even when the family might not be in. And toys have been thrown across the room, chairs have been knocked over. And again, you can judge this how you want, but the children have been caught levitating. Again, it's not really said who by, but they've been caught levitating.
It's what happens in the supernatural.
And that's how the police were involved. They came to the house, they actually happened to the police officers.
And she sort of went like that, the policewoman, and she sort of looked in disbelief and was looking to see something was attached to it and one of us might be playing a joke on her, and maybe that's the sort of look she gave.
I suppose like in desperation for some sort of help.
The chap on the news desk, being a bit sceptical, obviously didn't believe her at all.
The newspaper thought that my neighbour was drunk. They don't come across this every day, do they?
When she mentioned the police had seen this, they had to believe them then. You wouldn't ignore the fact that if the police had witnessed something, that was good enough for us. I was in my early 20s. I was a photographer on the Daily Mirror, covering anything, everything. News, sport, fashion, you name it, I shot it. Janet was brought in, and as she came into the room, suddenly things just took off. Wherever Janet was, it just seemed to happen. Kids are kids, you know, they'll do funny little things for attention, but not the things that we were seeing, we were witnessing there. They couldn't have done those things. They weren't even in the same room at the time. So, no, I quite believe what I was watching was genuine. You'd have chairs tip up, beds turn over, drawers would fly out in a room there was no one in.
Of those girls. They would levitate.
I remember being pulled from my bed. I felt like a cold hand feeling and pushed up into the air. It was like a force, and I was screaming.
Then they'd levitate, crisscross in the air.
The shot of Janet levitating was done with a cable running down to where I was, down in the main sort of living room. She was up in the bedroom. We had a camera set up in the corner, motor driven with
quite bad, but before that I certainly thought that ghosts were ghost stories, and they were...
I don't just mean like, you know, like an inch off the floor like a ballet person would be, a ballet dancer. You're talking 7 feet off the floor? Again, I don't know. What is very clear is that all this attention on the house and the children and the activity that was going on raised that much skepticism and that much interest that they were actually in the news, in the Daily Mirror during 1979, just following the story along, what was happening, any updates, any new investigators, any new evidence, and it was widely popularised. Members of the SPR, that was Maurice Gross and Guy Lyon Playfair, also reported hearing whistling sounds and barking noises coming from Janet's direction. Their investigation that they made and the report I can't keep saying reportings, but it is reporting, their findings even led them to write a book called This House is Haunted, The True Story of a Poltergeist in 1980. Now, there's one thing to point out here as well, that even though Playfair admitted that a lot of the hauntings were legit, he still had doubts that a lot of the other stuff, like pranks, a lot of other stuff that was happening in the house might also be pranks of the children. he did admit that there was some balance of pranking and paranormal activity, basically. And of course, the worldwide known famous paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren also visited the house. And again, they concluded the house was haunted. However, there is skepticism there as well, because they apparently told Playfair that he should make the hauntings and a book because it would sell for money. Now, this is what he has said apparently, and as far as I'm aware, in any of their movies or cases, they've never once mentioned, like, even their research, like people that have done research into them, they've never ever mentioned that they would suggest someone to write a movie or do a movie on a haunting, because their main goal, in as far as I'm concerned, in these hauntings that they've researched is to find out what's going on and bring peace to families, if you get what I mean. So I'm not sure where that came from, I'm not sure if it's true, but that's something that's been mentioned. Now here is where more skepticism comes in, and probably more reasons for you to doubt this whole entity thing. There was a lot of controversy when Janet was apparently caught on camera, I think it was a hidden camera, trying to bend a spoon and trying to bend an iron bar. She was also caught banging a broom handle on the wall, and she tried to hide recordings of things that the investigators were doing in secret, basically, if that makes any sense. So she might find a recording and then be like, oh, I want to hide it because it's showing the truth. And another thing to point out as well around this character Bill, Janet would apparently portray her own characteristics through this character Bill that she was possessed by. What I mean is, like, Janet was known for changing topics of things she didn't want to talk about, and when Bill would come through, she would do the same thing, or he would do the same thing as well when having a chat about something he didn't want to continue. So there was a bit of skepticism there as well, because like, why would she inhabit the same characteristics? Now, I don't know to what extent, but I know that after a while, again, it was reported that eventually Janet and Margaret did admit to pranking journalists to a certain extent, which caused Gross and Playfair to be angry, obviously, because they were being mocked by the paranormal research community for making it such a big deal that this place was haunted. So they've basically forced Margaret and Janet to take back their confession that that place was haunted, again not helping the fact that it might be. I don't know.
Enfield too, you'll remember, the focus of the activity was a young girl. What else should we know about Janet Harper before concluding that the poltergeist was supernatural? Under examination by a hypnotist, she made an interesting confession.
He hypnotized Janet with tremendous care, knowing the background and knowing something about her history. And one of the questions he asked her was who's responsible for all this trouble, and she immediately replied, me and my sister.
And then to make it even worse, when they were found to be mocked or gullible, a psychological researcher, Renee, mentioned that there was doubts brought up about the alleged activity from the voiceovers and the recordings that had been made during a conference around a conference that was made that reflected the recordings in Cambridge in 1978, talking about how the video cassettes basically were examined and many aspects of the recordings were overly exaggerated, basically. That the girl's behaviour was suspicious, and they were it was clear that they were staging a lot of the behaviour just for the amusement, basically. Someone even suggested that Janet might be not realising that she's a very good ventriloquist. That's why she could imitate all these voices. It was a talent she didn't even know that was a talent, a skill. And then just because she made it look like it was a possession, she played on it, basically. Even the magician Milbourne was saying that when Janet realised that she was getting away with these suspicions and being a trickster. She just, like I said earlier, she just played on it, was a typical teenage girl, and her sister might have been in on it, and they were just enjoying it. Even if you look in the video, which I'll insert, of the interview they had with the girls, they look very cheeky and suspicious. Like, if you were having a house that was haunted or possessed, I wouldn't be acting like that. I'd be more terrified, and they just look so laid back. So again, that's suspicious as well. If you look on the recording when she's supposed to be in the demonic voices, she's just like that, gritting her teeth, and she's just speaking like she's like, I could do that as well. I could do that. So, you know, it's like, was she really doing a demonic voice, or was she really possessed? There's like, you know, you'd expect her to be a bit more tight and stuff like that. I'm not sure. They also observed how she would cover her mouth as well when she's supposed to be doing a demonic voice. And then they were taken of her levitating. Somebody examined them and were basically saying that if you look at it frame by frame, it's consistent with somebody who would be jumping off a trampoline, the way their body would be. So again, was that made up? 2016, a professor of psychology called Chris French gave 5 reasons why he knew it was all a hoax. So I'm going to read these out for you. So he said the two sisters that were involved, Margaret and Janet, admitted to some of the activity being a hoax, so why not all of it? The photo of Janet levitating above her bed was explained as Janet jumping off a trampoline. The spirit of an old man who supposedly possessed Janet took a great deal of interest in menstruation. I'm not sure what that meant, but it's like, why would a guy who's from an old age or whatever would just be interested in that? It's a bit weird. Eyewitnesses are notoriously unreliable. Again, I don't know what that means. Maybe it's just that they like to exaggerate more. And then other schoolgirls' pranks have got out of hand before, so why not, you know, it's like it's normal for this kind of thing to happen. So yeah, I don't know. But again, it doesn't explain what the police were saying, because obviously they're police, why would they lie? Maybe some of it is true, but because it was widely seen as a hoax, it's like, to what level was it true? But again, investigators have been to this house since, from the FIL with Alton Castay. I know that the neighbours, I think, hold the entrance key to the house, but even they don't want to be on camera, and they still say they can hear noises and stuff like that, and nobody's living in that house now. But yeah, once again, there's been loads of people that have gone there and got their own little gadgets and investigation going on, and they've had stuff recorded, they've heard stuff knocking, they've heard, you know, whatever. So again, it's the thing of, did the girls not realise they actually had a story and just took it out of proportion so it's not believable, or did they just find it fun and exciting and that they live in a haunted house and just took advantage of it? Again, we don't know. Your opinion is yours, you get to decide. So yeah, personally I think there was something there, but they ruined it a bit too much to be believable. But there's a lot of investigations that happened since to prove otherwise, that there possibly is a haunting, but we don't exactly know what or who it is or why it's there. So yeah, with that being said, you can make up your own choices, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please do give it a like, subscribe as always, and comment down below your thoughts if you think it's haunted or not. But until next time, happy haunting, sleep well, good night, God bless.